Chapter 19. We just left off at the end of chapter 18 where Moses is saying, look, God is going to send you all a true prophet like unto myself. Him shall ye hearken unto. Of course, he's talking about Christ. Then Moses goes into talking about the signs of false prophets and all of this. Now it leads into chapter 19, and this is mainly concerning criminal law. And it begins by speaking on these cities of refuge, which we have already went over. And a city of refuge was a place, once again, where if someone accidentally killed one of their brethren, and one of the examples given is that of if they go out and they're cutting down trees together and the axe head flies off and hits a brother and kills him, then the guy in whom survives, he can run to one of these cities of refuge. That way no vengeance can be taken upon him. And of course, these are just types of Christ, as God is our refuge, as he is not far from any one of us. Neither were these cities of refuge from any one person. As you'll see, there are 3 located on the east of the Jordan, 3 located on the west of the Jordan, and it's commanded that any new territory beyond that in which God gave them of Canaan, then they were to set up 3 more cities of refuge, in which David nor Solomon did this, even though David conquered he expanded the land like 3 times that of the original size of Canaan, but they never did set up more cities of refuge, but 3 cities were to be set up. And I believe that that's a showing of the Trinity, my friends. But in verse 14 of chapter 19 in Deuteronomy, we see, thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set in thine inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. This is a clear showing of how God views the significance behind private property. They were not to remove these, as some shady families may desire to do in order to expand their own property. They were not to do that, which really goes against the whole communist or the Great Reset plan that they have in place today, where they say you'll not own anything, any land, any possession, and you'll be happy as can be. This is the satanic New World Order, where you'll not own any property. That's what Satan wants. Take away all property, make you a slave to the system. But God says, no, I have given you this land.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need.
And that last one was the clown Guterres, who was at the Climate Ambition Summit, telling us the world is going to cook by 3.5 degrees or something by the end of the century. Yeah, right. This Great Reset is as serious and as dangerous a threat to our prosperity, to your prosperity and your freedom, as we have faced in decades, with these powerful bodies, including the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, and even Prince Charles boasting that within a few short years, yes, their words, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Remember, this is not me saying this, this is them. They are even running ads for the Great Reset. A handful of countries will dominate. I wonder which ones they might be. A terrifying coalition of big business, big tech, and left-wing totalitarians are so confident and so brazen. I mean, they just stole the US election, so I guess they're feeling pretty chuffed with themselves, that they are now promising you will own nothing and you will be happy. What they should have added is, and we, the very rich, will own everything and be even happier. Of course they will.
God's all about freedom. Satan wants slavery for everyone. Verse 15. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity, or for any sin, and any sin that he sinneth at the mouth of two witnesses, or at the mouth of three witnesses, shall the matter be established. Now, we cannot confine the reason behind this ordinance being set in place. How if someone is being accused, like if someone accuses me of a crime, then one witness alone of seeing me commit the crime, one witness alone was not enough to, especially to convict me of anything. No, it had to be two or three witnesses, but there are other reasons behind why one witness was not alone accepted. David Guzik commented on this. This isn't just because it is possible for one witness to lie without having his story corroborated. It is because one witness can be confused or mistaken in his testimony, may have bad eyesight or hard of hearing, if that comes into the equation. It is a basic measure of reliability that it must be more than a simple case of my word against theirs. Verse 16. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, if someone actually does get up and lie about you, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition. And behold, if the witness be a false witness, and hath testified falsely against his brother, then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. And more than likely, if they're a false witness, someone who comes forward, like if someone comes against me and says, hey, he stole this or that, he deserves 10 years in prison. Well, then, if he's found out to be lying, he gets 10 years in prison instead. It's also worthy of note that in which Guzik commented on, at the trial of Jesus, many false witnesses rose up against him and were demonstrated to be false witnesses by their confused and contradictory testimony. You can read about that in Matthew 26, 59, 60. The false witnesses, though, under Jewish law, should have been put to death, because that is the punishment they sought for Jesus. And those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you, and thine eyes shall not pity. But life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Now, many have used this in movies and books, novels, all of this. They've used this in a very malicious way, eye for an eye, and they usually mean that for vengeance. I'm going to get revenge on someone in whom wronged me. And they take it very in a personal setting. Well, that's not what this is to be applied to. Obviously, this is to be applied in a judicial sense. And in proper context, it is, as once again, if someone comes forward, lies about me stealing something, and they're found out and they say, well, he deserves 10 years for this, then once that they're found out, eye for an eye, or 10 years for 10 years. They are sentenced to 10 years in prison rather than me, eye for an eye. That's what this means. Far from encouraging vengeance, it limits vengeance and stands as a guide for a judge as he fixes a penalty suited to the crime. The principle was thus not license or vengeance, but a guarantee of justice. Now, it's very important to note that, my friends, how this is not used in the personal sense as someone wanting revenge against his neighbor or whoever. Because Jesus, he brings this up. Jesus' criticism of this law arose from its use to regulate conduct between individuals. He says you're not to use that in a personal, vengeful way. He did not reject it as a principle of justice, though, in the judicial sense, which should operate in the courts of the land. For private relationships, he proposed the ideal of brotherhood. But whenever it comes to the courts, though, justice is to be held in place, because even at the time of Christ, the Jews had corrupted so much of these teachings. And just like many Christians of today, how they'll take a verse out of context, well, the Jews were doing that with this eye for an eye principle, and they were applying it to the personal relationships. For private relationships, he proposed the ideal of brotherhood, a strong principle throughout the book of Deuteronomy. See, Deuteronomy promotes brotherhood as well.
Chapter 19. When the Lord thy God hath cut off the nations, whose land the Lord thy God giveth thee, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their cities, and in their houses, thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee in the midst of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. Thou shalt prepare thee a way, and divide the coasts of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to inherit, into 3 parts, that every slayer may flee thither. And this is the case of the slayer which shall flee thither, that he may live. Whoso killeth his neighbor ignorantly, whom he hateth not in time past, as when a man goeth into the wood with his neighbor to hew wood, and his hand fetcheth a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slippeth from the helve, and lighteth upon his neighbor that he die, he shall flee unto one of those cities and live. Lest the avenger of the blood pursue the slayer, while his heart is hot, and overtake him, because the way is long, and slay him, whereas he was not worthy of death, inasmuch as he hated him not in time past. Wherefore I command thee, saying, Thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee, and if the Lord thy God enlarge thy coast, as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, and give thee all the land which he promised to give unto thy fathers, if thou shalt keep all these commandments to do them, which I command thee this day, to love the Lord thy God, and to walk ever in his ways, then shalt thou add 3 cities more for thee, beside these 3, that innocent blood be not shed in thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, and so blood be upon thee. But if any man hate his neighbor, and lie in wait for him, and rise up against him, and smite him mortally that he die, and fleeth into one of these cities, then the elders of his city shall send and fetch him thence, and deliver him into the hand of the avenger of blood, that he may die. Thine eyes shall not pity him, but thou shalt put away the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with thee. Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set in thine inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. 1 witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity, or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men, between whom the controversy is, shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition, and behold, if the witness be a false witness, and hath testified falsely against his brother, then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. And those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. And thine eyes shall not pity, but life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot.